For me, there's no such thing as, if it happens, it happens. There must be a reason no one wants to hang out with you. Is there a personality flaw or something? Also, it seems to come so naturally for some people. Why doesn't it come easily to me? What's wrong with me? Being able to decipher when you did do something wrong versus when, no, this person is just crazy. Is it okay to be lonely? I don't really think so. I recently made a few videos about turning 30 years old and being completely friendless and how lonely it made me. Because I like to improve myself and I don't really like complaining about something and then not being able to do anything about it, I went and tried to make friends. And the responses I got to all this was mostly supportive. It's mostly people relating to my experience and sharing how lonely they are themselves and how difficult it is to actually make friends. But a certain amount of people were saying things like,
why is it bad to be lonely? Or I prefer to be lonely? Or what's wrong with being lonely?
There seems to be a certain sentiment that you can be alone but not lonely. And I agree with that. Kind of. There are times when I feel that way, but I do feel like a lot of people use that excuse as an excuse to not go out there and find friends. It feels to me like some people's responses to me trying to better myself and putting myself out there makes them feel insecure about not going out and doing the same thing. So in order to protect their ego, they're trying to cover it up with, oh, it's fine to be lonely. And I say all this because I empathize, because I used to be exactly like that. There are some crazy benefits that I would have never expected would happen to me once I found friends that I'll explain later. But first, for the longest time, I thought it was very okay to be alone. I think when you've been alone for a really long time, you kind of forget how to feel lonely. At least for me, it was always really difficult for me to make friends. So why do you think I made art my career? I think one of the reasons why I used to like to say I like to be alone, but that doesn't mean I'm lonely, is because it makes it a choice. It makes being alone a choice, even though it wasn't really. Because if you do admit that you're lonely and that you're friendless, it kind of inherently shames you a little bit. If you tell people that, they'll think, what's wrong with you? There must be a reason no one wants to hang out with you. Is there a personality flaw or something? Also, it seems to come so naturally for some people. Why doesn't it come easily to me? What's wrong with me? So you try to fix the problem by attempting to make friends, but unfortunately it's an extremely awkward and painful experience when you could have just been alone and not experienced those painful, awkward feelings. So what your mind tends to do to protect yourself is to go, well, fuck you, fuck people in general. Everyone fucking sucks, so I'd rather be alone. It's easier that way. Being alone is a much more pleasurable experience than dealing with this bullshit. So, you know what? I want to be alone. That's my choice. And for the past few years, that has worked very, very well for me. At least that's what I thought. The negative consequences of being friendless and alone don't really start showing up till later, and you might not even notice it unless you decide to change. One of the most negative things that started happening to me was that I started thinking very badly of other people. People in general. I thought people weren't to be trusted. If they let you down, of course they would. It would be foolish of me to think they wouldn't let me down, especially because I quit my job in such a spectacularly public way and entered the harsh world of the internet and social media. I also started thinking people were out to get me. I had this very victim mentality start to develop, and I just became very distrustful of people and in a way very paranoid. Whether it was warranted or not, I would like to think that it wasn't, to the extent that I felt that way. It did weigh heavily on me. It made me very depressed. It made me feel like I had to do everything alone. Anything that I wanted in life, I felt that I had to fight other people just to get what I wanted. Living everyday life felt like a chore, like it was just something to get through rather than an enjoyable experience. So how did I know things needed to change? Well, I didn't really like the person I was becoming. Prior to quitting my job at Disney, I used to be a very open human being. I was a very friendly person. I trusted in people, maybe to a naive extent, which meant that I didn't used to judge people and therefore myself harshly either. I just kind of existed very happily in the world. I was also self-aware enough to understand that if I wanted things to get better, the only person I could go to or change or ask of is myself. There's no amount of shaking my fist at the sky that would make things better for me. Oh, people suck. Oh, people are fucking weird. Especially to people on the internet. It was just wasted anger, and I was tired of feeling angry at everyone. So what exactly did I do to change things and start making friends? If there's anything to understand about me, I don't take half measures for anything. I kind of throw myself into the deep end. I am a rip the band-aid off kind of person. It's a very unfortunate trait for myself because I just go to extremes all the time, and this instance included. To address essentially my fear of people, I started taking classes at my local college and introduced myself to practically everyone. And not only that, I tried my best to ask each and every single person out to a one-on-one coffee date. I went to practically every single social event in town, and my goal by the end of the night was to get at least one person's number so I can hang out with them after the fact, whether or not I thought I liked them. So I was basically speed dating friends. I was going on a friend date practically once a week at least. For me, there's no such thing as if it happens, it happens, because it didn't happen for me for the past few years. And there's no way I was going to let making friends up to chance. No, I'm too much of a control freak for that, so I did it this way. And to be honest, yes, it was awful at first. My first few interactions with people made me feel like my skin was on fire. Yes, it was painful. Yes, it was awkward. Yes, sometimes conversations didn't go very well, and I would go home, overthink it, hate myself and the other person occasionally, and sometimes it felt like it was doing more harm than good. Obviously, it would make me hate people all over again. I think for the first 3-ish months, I was just constantly confused and irritated by people. So, you might be asking, when did the good part start? Well, at the same exact time I was very pissed off at people, I also experienced some of the highest highs. The most important part, if you want to try this way of making friends, is to understand that your anger, your frustration, and just confusion about people is your fault, not theirs. By doing all of this, I had to confront a lot of things about myself that I knew needed to change. These were things I didn't realize I was ignoring by being by myself. For example, I didn't realize what a stagnant person I'd become, especially during COVID when we were all forced to be alone. So during that time, I had quit my job and it felt like the entire industry hated me. I completely self-isolated and I wrote off anyone and everyone. I realize now that healing and moving on past that should have been easier if I had allowed the cool people in my life to help me. Not that anyone reached out and tried, but I should have been more open as well. Interacting with so many people all at once really helped me develop a really thick skin for other people's insecurities. So usually when people aren't treating you so well in a relationship, it's kind of an opportunity for you to learn a few red flags to look out for. If people aren't respecting you or your boundaries, usually that has nothing to do with you. Angry people are dealing with something behind the scenes in their own life that they're just kind of directing at you, like a cat. Cats do this thing where if they're fighting with each other and you try to get between them and break it up, they'll get angry at you and start attacking you. They don't realize you have nothing to do with their anger, but it doesn't really matter to them. You're their new source of whatever is making them upset. Humans do this too, except we think we're smarter than that, but we're not. I always think the best of people, and I always think the reason why they're doing something is because of a logical, thought out reason. No. I have to always remind myself that the reason why most people do things usually are not logical. It comes from a very irrational, emotional place, and sometimes it's not worth it to think about. It's not worth it to decipher and understand, because sometimes they don't even know the reason themselves. Because I started dealing with so many different types of people, it made me a more empathetic person, and infinitely more secure with myself. When you have to start holding your boundaries and certain people get mad at you for it, or some people start acting weird around you for some unexplained reason, it would be very easy for you to start people pleasing, for you to start blaming yourself, changing your own behavior, and wondering if you did something wrong. Being able to decipher when you did do something wrong versus when no, this person is just crazy. That teaches a lot about yourself. I started becoming more like these people that I really admired that didn't seem to ever really get angry when bad things happen to them or when they experience really frustrating people. They just let it roll off of them like water off a duck's back. The person I am today is so different from the person I was even a few months ago because I forced myself to do all of this. So that's when I realized, oh, it's a numbers game. The more people I met and became friends with, the easier it got. Plus, when you start building a huge network of people you can go to, you're not stuck with any one person. I think my problem before was that I had a very, very small network of people I considered friends. So if one person pissed me off or did something awful to me, it was the end of the world. Whereas now, bye-bye. There's plenty more fish in the sea, as they say. Plus, you start recognizing red flags a lot easier, and it becomes pretty easy to know what types of people to let into your life and which ones are the dangerous ones. Before, by not allowing myself to experience these difficult situations with people, I was kind of stunting my own growth. Now, here is one of the craziest benefits of making friends that no one is going to tell you. I have not heard this from anyone. Having friends is one of the most important aspects of success that no one is going to explain to you. Recently, I made a short film titled A Love Letter to My Haters. I couldn't have made this film without the help of many, many people that I recently made friends with. And the thing is, they helped me because they wanted to, not because they were getting paid to, because they weren't. This was basically just what I would call a student short film. So regardless of whether you think my film is good or bad, or a business venture is a success or failure, the only reason these things can exist is if the person at the top leading everyone has the ability to convince people, a lot of other people, to believe in them. It is not my philosophy that you can pay someone to be passionate about something. At the end of the day, when shit hits the fan and everything is going wrong around you, you have to rely on the people who love and care about you and your close network of friends. And if you don't have any, good luck getting anything done. Meanwhile, the better you are at dealing with people and just being good with people, the easier life becomes, whether it's trying to get a job, trying to build a business, trying to make a short film. All of this becomes infinitely easier if you have friends. Now, to become the kind of person that is very good at people takes a lot of work and a lot of time. It requires a level of trust and patience and empathy that really is developed. It's not something people are just born with. So why is this not really taught in schools? Why is this not common knowledge? Well, if you think about it, the people who have these amazing people skills are all the highly successful ones. Everyone else are antisocial, angry people, and they're not very successful because of it. You know, there's a lot of incentive to kind of let people stay lonely, stay antisocial, stay angry and alienated towards other people. So what do we see these days, especially on social media or the media? It's a lot of people trying to convince you to hate other people, to think that, oh, the people who are stupid enough to buy into sororities and fraternities are really dumb, that there's absolutely no value to attending church, that your neighbor hates you and you hate them, and there's nothing more important than your political views, even more so than your friends and family. If you choose to live this way, you're making it easier for you to fail and other people to succeed who don't buy into all that bullshit. Trust and kindness is a high risk, high reward kind of emotion. Yes, you'll get hurt plenty of times, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it to stop trying. I think at the end of the day, putting myself through the very difficult, painful process of putting myself out there and trying my best to make friends was the most healing thing that I've ever done for myself. Of course, I don't recommend doing it in the most aggressive way possible by ripping off the band-aid and throwing yourself into the deep end of the pool. Maybe a gentle easing into warm waters. What do you think? Do you think it's naive of me to allow myself to trust people again? Or do you think my way of making friends is ridiculous and making friends is just completely up to chance? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.